Hello everybody, my name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk some metal. So recently I made a video that told about one of my collecting adventures, or misadventures rather, and how I spent way too much time obsessing over the Hollow Ground EP and all of my missteps along the way of trying to actually get a copy of that over time. And the video got a really good response. A lot of people said they liked that kind of content and they enjoyed hearing that kind of story about collecting vinyl. And they asked me to do some more. So, all right then, I'm happy to do another one like that. For the tale I'm going to tell tonight, we're going to be talking about this album. This is Power Games by Jaguar. Jaguar is one of the better known new wave of British heavy metal bands. They did a couple of singles and a couple of albums. This was their first full album on Neat Records, and it's a really, really good one. It is one of the faster and more aggressive sounding albums out of the new wave of British heavy metal. It really is sort of an early template for how bands would adopt, thrash and speed metal more and more as we got more deeper into the 1980s. Their second album, to be honest, they kind of wimped out quite a bit. But yeah, the two singles in this first album, Power Games, these are absolute killers. You've got a tank on the cover, you got a big checkerboard thing going on, everything you want on your kind of cheesy but cool new wave of British heavy metal album. Jaguar had a really good following, especially in continental Europe, in some other countries. So yeah, they've had a good legacy. The record was made on Neat Records, and it's never been a particularly hard one to track down. It's always been one of those records that's kind of like, maybe in the $20 range. More recently, with prices having gone up, it might be running closer to 40 or something. But yeah, not a really hard one to track down. So why am I talking about it? Well, there's a reason. Jaguar was a band I heard about pretty early when I got into new wave of British heavy metal in the early 90s. And I got the Power Games album I just showed you pretty early on. Like I said, not a hard one to track down. However, there's also another version of Power Games that not a lot of people have ever seen. I first heard about it when I got a copy of this. This is Heavy Metal: The Vinyl Years, written by John Allinson. He was a British heavy metal enthusiast, collector, vinyl dealer. He had relocated to the United States, which is where I met him and dealt with him for several years. And he kind of did this little self-published book. I believe this came out in 96, give or take just a little bit. It might have been slightly, it may have been 95, may have been early 97. But it was a real simple sort of listing guide for a lot of the heavy metal records that he was aware of. Now you can tell right away by the thickness, it's by no means a complete discography. This is not Metal Archives in print form by any means. But this came out before Metal Archives was a thing. So at the time, it was a pretty nice collecting resource for folks. John had dealt with a lot of new wave of British heavy metal over the years. He was the fellow who bought out a lot of Neat Records' remaining vinyl stock when they kind of liquidated and were emptying out their warehouse. And that was a lot of his stock when John did his mail order lists, was the last remaining copies of stuff out of the Neat warehouse. So he had seen a lot of new wave of British heavy metal stuff and a lot of variations. He collected a lot of Motorhead and Venom records, so he knew a lot of the variations for those in particular. So yeah, bottom line was, it was a nice book at the time. And under the Jaguar entry, I noticed that the album Power Games is listed as also appearing on purple vinyl. So I was like, okay, I'll admit I'm a little bit of a colored vinyl geek. I kind of like them. They're just sort of different and sort of neat, but I know they don't necessarily sound better. If anything, they might sound worse. But I was like, oh, Power Games came on purple vinyl. I might just have to find a copy of that sometime. Now, this book does have some typos in it. There are some mistakes along the way, so I had to take it with a grain of salt that it's probably on purple vinyl, but there's a chance that it's not. I didn't get a chance to ask John about that entry in particular to make sure it was correct. Again, I got this copy in probably late 96 or maybe early 1997. And so I figured, oh yeah, Power Games, great album. I like it. I wouldn't mind having a purple vinyl copy to go with my black vinyl copy. How hard can that be to find? Never ask yourself that question. You're setting yourself up for failure. So I start looking for it, and I can't find it. Nobody's got it. Again, this is also pre-eBay, or the very earliest days of eBay. And looking for it, nobody's got it on mail order lists. I don't find it when I go to record shows. I don't find it, when I'm digging through used record stores. It's just not around. But again, finding new wave of British heavy metal vinyl, even in the mid-90s, finding that stuff in the wild was not easy here in the United States. So it was just like, okay, this one seems to be a little hard to find, but it'll turn up someday, right? Sooner or later, maybe, hopefully. Yeah, a few years go by and I've still never seen a copy of the thing. Now again, Power Games does turn up. I find copies of that here and there. And every time I find a copy, I pull it out and I check it, and womp womp, it's black vinyl. So let's fast forward then about 3 years to April of 2000. And I went to a record show in Raleigh, North Carolina. And there were some folks that had a little bit of heavy metal stuff here and there. Again, vinyl was not real popular at the time, so record shows around that era were really CD dominated. So there were a couple of folks that set up at record shows in the Southeast that had a lot of like import metal CDs. Exploding Ned's Tunes was one of them that was always at these shows that I could usually buy some German import CDs from. But there's also a dealer there that I hadn't seen at a record show before, set up. Sorry, just moving this because I'll need something in a second. Who was set up, and he was associated with one of the smaller indie record labels that I had dealt with via mail order. So when I sort of saw the flyers on his table, it was just like, oh, okay, you're the guy associated with that label. And it quickly introduced myself. I was like, yeah, I've bought some stuff. We've actually traded a few records back and forth over the years. He was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know you. Nice to meet you. But, he had another customer there who was asking a lot of questions and stuff. So he's like, I'll chat with you in a little bit. And so I was like, absolutely. I'll just look through some boxes here. Take your time. So I start flipping through his boxes, and he's got a lot of cool stuff, which I knew he would once I recognized who it was. A lot of new wave of British heavy metal LPs and stuff like that. Some stuff, from his own label that they had been put out, of course. And, I get to the J's, and there's a copy of Jaguar Power Games there. So, like always, I pull it out and to check the vinyl cover. So, slide it out of the cover, and the dealer is kind of wrapping up with the other person. The other person's paying for whatever records they had picked out. And I guess he kind of sees out of the corner of my eye, what I'm doing. So I ask him, like, hey, is it okay if I pull this out to look at it? He's like, yeah, that's fine. Go right ahead. And he sees what it is. He's like, oh, if you're checking the vinyl color, it's black. And like, oh, okay, I figured it was. The thing was, as he's saying that, I had already kind of started pulling it out. And as I pulled it out, it looked like this. And so he's telling me, oh, it's on black. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, that doesn't look black to me. That looks purple. So I'm just standing there kind of looking at it for a second, kind of, my brain's trying to process the fact that I'm hearing one thing but seeing another color. And by that time, he's finished up with the other customer. And so he's turned his attention to me. I'm the only person standing at his table now. And he sees what I see. And I hear him say, oh, shit, that's the purple copy. And so I'm standing there looking at it, and he's standing there looking at it. And this is one of those little moments in time that probably took like 1.5 seconds to resolve, but in your brain, it feels like you're stuck there for about 5 minutes. Because I'm standing here holding this, and now I know, so like, wow, that's the purple vinyl one I've been looking for about 3 years at this point. And he told me it was black. It was listed as black on the, covered little price tag sticker thing. But now he sees that it was mislabeled. And so my brain's like, okay, this is about to go south real fast. I've been to record shows my whole life. A lot of you probably already know if you've watched my other videos that my dad's been a record collector since way back in the 1960s. You know, every family vacation, we always had to see what record stores were in town wherever we were visiting. So I've been to these shows. I'm used to record dealers, and let's be honest, most of them are a pretty mercurial lot. When something like this happens, it's not going to end well. So I'm standing here holding this and thinking to myself, one of two things is about to occur. This guy is either going to reach for the record and tell me, sorry, that is not for sale, put it back behind the table, and I never will see it again. Or he's about to tell me, oh, well, that's the purple vinyl copy. That's not $5 like the sticker says. That one's actually some number that's much, much higher because it's obviously the much rarer version. I've looked for 3 years and haven't seen a single copy at this point. And so I'm kind of standing there looking at him, waiting for that other shoe to drop. Just like, is he going to take it away and tell me I can't buy it? Or is he going to jack up the price and tell me that's the new price because it was mislabeled? And he's standing there looking at me and looking at the record. And I'm looking at the record and I'm looking at him. And again, this probably took 3 seconds in real life, but it just, feels like an eternity where you're just kind of waiting for, it's like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And he looks at it and he just kind of sighs. He's like, well, you just made the best find of this entire record show. I'm just like, so you only want the $5 for it? He's like, that's the price I put on it. That's my fault. If you want it for $5, it's yours. I'm just like, yeah, I think I'll put that over here on the stack of things to buy. Thank you very much. It was the nicest and classiest thing I had ever seen a record dealer do at a record show. Again, I'd been to record shows for years, and I'd seen dealers do all kinds of very questionable to borderline scummy things with people when things like this came up, fighting about condition or, trying to change the price at the last second when they noticed it was a different pressing or things like that. And no, this guy was just like, my bad. It's priced for $5. If you want it, it's yours. So if you don't want it, I'm going to change the price on it, but I'm not taking it away. So yeah, I bought the purple copy of Jaguar Power Games for $5 from him. I've dealt with this guy a lot over the years since then. It will come up every now and then and we'll still laugh about it. He's just like, you still got that purple Jaguar Power Games I let you have back in Raleigh? Just like, yep, I still got it. He's like, don't guess you want to sell it back to you. He's like, sorry, not really, but I'll let you know if I do. And he's laughed about it. He's like, I can't really be too mad about it. I did make $3 when I sold you the record. I was like, yeah. He's like, of course, I probably could have made a few more. I'm just like, yeah, you probably could have. For some context. Now, at the time, again, I'd never seen a copy. I didn't have a great feel for what the record would be worth. Since that time, a few copies have turned up on eBay over the years. If you look them up like on PopPsych, you'll probably find one or two. And those completed auctions, for what it's worth, typically are in the range of like $200 to $500. It's a really, really tough record to find. Most of those colored vinyl records put out on Neat are pretty tough to come by. I've never seen official print runs of how many copies were made on each color, but it seems to have been very tiny amounts. Neat Records did several on colored vinyl. The Fist Back with a Vengeance album was on yellow vinyl. Famously, the first 2 Venom albums were on different colors of vinyl. There's a few others like that, but they're all really hard to find. And so, yeah, I didn't, even though I'd been looking for it for 3 years at that time, I didn't fully appreciate just how expensive that record could have been and how much he could have had it priced at. And he told me that, it was just a case where he had a black vinyl copy and he had a purple vinyl copy. And when he was packing up for the record store, he meant to grab the black vinyl copy and, price it and put it in the bin. And he just grabbed the wrong copy by mistake and hadn't double checked it. And luck was with me that day. I was the first person that came along, checked the color of the vinyl, and knew what it was. So that's my tale of how I got a purple vinyl copy of Jaguar Power Games. And again, one of the nicest acts I've seen a record dealer ever do at one of these record shows. 99 out of 100 guys would have taken that record away or immediately have told me that, no, 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 it's not $5, it's $500 if you want it. But this guy didn't do either of those things. He stuck to what was on the price tag, and I always thought that was super cool of him. All right, so that's going to be it for this video. But let's keep talking metal in the comments down below. I'm sure some of y'all have cool collector tales as well. By all means, put them in the comments. Let me know what cool things that you found or things that you had to track down for a long time. And then one day, the stars all aligned and you finally got that cool item that you've been searching for so long. I like hearing about those kind of things too. It's just fun to know when people tracked down something that they really wanted. All right, with that, let's bring this video to a close. So until next time, everybody take care, and as always, keep banging your head.